...2022 in the data centre industry across Frankfurt, London, Amsterdam, Paris and Dublin was another explosive year. It's the third year consecutively now where we've seen over 200 megawatts of uptake, which is the amount of capacity going online live for new clients' usage effectively. And indeed, it's going to continue in that direction. So the market's been very buoyant overall. I'm going to use a little bit of comparison between 2022 and where we think 2023 is going to end up. First of all, we're going to continue to see more pre-lets occurring. So rewind the clock to 2021, where we saw circa 483 megawatts of pre-leased capacity. That's capacity that isn't in the market, but is coming to the market and having pre-leased agreements made against it. That's 2021. In 2022, that number went up to 538 megawatts. We are anticipating another year in excess of 538 megawatts, probably getting close to 600 megawatts of pre-leased space for 2023, which again just links back to the growth in this marketplace in the core markets that we are seeing. For new markets, let's call them emerging markets. Some people use the word tier 2 markets. I don't like that term personally. I like the term emerging marketplaces because that's what they are. They're not in their infancy, they are emerging out of that stage. So markets like, most common ones would be Madrid and Milan, would be the most recent ones. But I think you now need to be considering other places like Lisbon. Last year, 2022, we transacted several transactions in the Lisbon area for data center purposing. Other markets, Poland, we transacted over 4 transactions there, again in the data center marketplaces. These aren't necessarily key markets today, but in the future I would anticipate they will be, and that's just a couple. Oh, great question. There's no simple answer to ESG. If I rewound the clock 5 years ago, hand on heart, it probably was a criteria at the bottom or towards the bottom of a long list of important factors. Today, it's right up at the top. I would actually stay number 1 on people's investment criteria list. Again, my opinion. I see you nodding, which is encouraging. To the point where some countries, because they have an over-reliance on fossil fuels, they may see a challenge in securing inward investment into the data center marketplaces. So countries, and the Nordics has been a topic of conversation today, where there is an abundance of renewables, they certainly are easier to invest into versus those that have an abundance of fossil fuel reliance. So it's certainly moved up the agenda to the number 1 position in terms of criteria that are being considered. Where that's going to lead is an interesting thought, which is how are we going to start involving technology to bring about better ESG credentials? How are we going to start using the renewable sources of power that we have all around us? How are we going to start storing it? So battery backup, battery storage of significance that can then be used. So it's a fascinating topic area, number 1 on the list from my perspective. This event is fantastic in terms of the diversity of parties that participate and engage in the conversation. So it's not just an advisor that's standing in the room talking about what they've seen in the life. There are people in that room that come from the operator background, that come from the investment community, that come from the development perspective. So there's a whole wealth of lenses that are viewing this single topic at. The piece, therefore, that it brings the most is a collaborative conversation, is how I would describe the most value that these forums present. What we're missing, though, if you don't mind me suggesting, is the public involvement in this debate, in this conversation. The only time the public seems to be brought into the data center world has been forced through COVID, where they were forced to use technology more, and therefore, in a way, in a positive way, we got more attention. But still, the public doesn't really understand the improvements that data centers have made over the last decade or so, where they are today compared to where they were. And I'd like to see more of a public conversation and involvement than we've got. This forum, though, fantastic for our industry to bring different thoughts together that understand the sector.